Just a quick warning to my more sensitive viewers out there who aren't quite sure what The House That Jack Built is all about. It's a Lars Von Trier film. Now, if you guys haven't heard of Lars Von Trier, he's basically a filmmaker that always makes movies that cause a lot of outrage. His movies go one of two ways. There are either people that are absolutely outraged and disgusted and will walk out of the theatre, and then there's those that really praise his filmmaking abilities. He's definitely been very controversial, and the imagery is definitely very graphic, at times violent and disturbing in his films. This one, I have to warn you, does depict cruelty against children and animals, and they're two things that are very touchy with some people out there. So if you're not familiar with Lars Von Trier's movie making, then you're either in for a treat if you can appreciate this type of film, or if you're easily disturbed and you can't handle sensitive material, then best give this one a miss. However, you can watch my review, you can listen to me talk about it, tell you what it's about, and then decide for yourself if you want to see it or not. But just be warned, it does have very graphic, violent scenes, and there's cruelty against children and animals in this movie. The edition that I saw was the uncut edition, and overall it wasn't as graphically violent as I thought it would be. It really wasn't. There wasn't that much violence in the film that was actually too graphic. The subject matter definitely disturbing, but like a Saw movie is a lot more graphic violently than this, 100%. With the warning out of the way, if you're a hardcore cinephile like myself and you're familiar with Lars Von Trier and you enjoy different types of films and you enjoy the provocateur nature of Lars Von Trier, who's always stirring the pot and challenging expectations of other films, then this one's definitely for you. It's definitely fine filmmaking, as disturbing as it can be, but you'll definitely appreciate it. It is about Jack, who is a serial killer, and we're treated to a 12-year run with Jack, which is separated into 5 segments or chapters, which are called incidents in the film itself. It's separated into 5 incidents, and they seem to be random kills throughout his serial killer history, because these aren't the only kills that he actually is responsible for, which he mentions in the movie himself. These are just random incidents that we're treated to, and some of them are more disturbing than others, definitely. When Jack isn't killing people, Jack isn't just your typical serial killer. He's got a very artistic mentality. He's trying very hard to be an architect. He's an engineer, but a failing architect. And he's having conversations, what appears to be in his mind, with an older gentleman, by the sounds of his voice, named Verge. A lot of their discussions range from philosophical debates to art, to architecture, to fine wine making, to morals and ethics with what Jack is actually doing with his serial killing. And, believe it or not, this is leading into the deepest and darkest bowels of creation itself. Now, Matt Dillon is phenomenal in this. I've always liked Matt Dillon's movies. He's great as a funny man. He's great in other types of movies, such as like The Outsiders or Teenager Troublemaker. Like, he's so versatile, and as a serial killer, he is flawless. This might actually be his best work ever, and I'm pretty sure that most of you will all agree. There's a lot of scenes in this film, particularly in the first hour, where tempo kind of changes after the first hour, but the first hour we really get to know Jack and some of his quirks. Like, he has OCD. Like, he cannot leave a house that's dirty in any way. So once he kills someone, one of his victims in a house or something like that, it's usually women, but not all of his kills are women. We're treated to mostly his female victims, but there are some other ones included in the mix in these incidents. And there was one scene in particular that sticks out where he's killed his victim, he's wrapped her up, put her in the van, he's cleaning the house, and he just keeps thinking that something might be dirty, like a bit of blood under a chair. So he checks, wipes it, it's fine. Then he keeps thinking there's a frame behind the wall, like a picture frame that might have a bit of dirt or something behind it. So he's frantically cleaning that, like behind the frame somewhere where he couldn't have dirted it himself anyway. But he just can't handle the idea of leaving a house dirty. It's very OCD, and he's about to leave this house that I'm talking about, and police sirens are ringing. So he's under the assumption the police are coming to get him. Someone's tipped them off. They're going to come and investigate. They know that he's there. But then he remembers again that he might not have cleaned something under the chair or behind the picture frame. So he goes back in there with the police sirens ringing just to quickly try and clean that up and then get out of there. It's just crazy how much OCD he has when it comes to cleaning. And this dissipates throughout the film. He begins taking more risks. And you'll find out why when you watch it yourself. He does get a bit more risky. He doesn't clean as much anymore. And maybe in a way he wants to be caught. So in a nutshell, I guess without talking about spoilers, because I'm going to do a separate video about spoilers and trying to explain the ending, which I think can be interpreted in so many different ways. It's a Von Trier film. It's full of allegories, symbolic metaphors, and a lot of things that some people will miss as well. For instance, when he's in a gun shop demanding that he received the wrong bullet and the package is saying there's a full metal jacket, but this is a hunting bullet, blah, blah, blah. I think that's symbolizing America's state when it comes to gun outlawing and some of the issues with massacres and stuff going on, and how easy it is to walk into a shop and buy bullets or a gun. I think it's a allegory with all of the gun issues happening at the moment in the US. Possibly, it might not be, but it definitely gives you that feeling. Same when he's killing a female victim and he's asking her to scream for help in an apartment. So she starts screaming and nobody comes to her aid, and then he says, well, maybe no one heard you, go to the window and scream there, scream at the top of your lungs. And so she's there screaming, and he just said, well, nobody's going to come. Nobody cares. You can scream all you want. I can let you scream till Christmas Eve. Nobody's going to come. And I think that's another symbolic metaphor to the fact that people ignore problems all around the world. So it's just filled with what I think, and especially because it's coming from Von Trier, it's definitely filled with allegories and symbolic metaphors like that, definitely. And the thing is, like, different viewers are going to pick up on different things. Like, I picked up on those two and a couple others that, I'm not going to mention, so you all can watch it and think about them for yourselves, and then we can discuss them down below in the comments. But it's just filled with symbolism and meaning. Like, Von Trier does everything for a reason. He won't include a scene or a subject matter for no reason. So if you're a hardcore cinephile like myself and you can look deeper into films and actually uncover some of the symbolic metaphors and allegories like I mentioned, there's usually a lot of that in his films, and this one I feel is no exception. The end especially is going to blow your brains away. I'm going to discuss it more in my next video because there's so much happening that I think it needs to be discussed in another video. I don't want to make this one too long, and I also want to do this one spoiler free. So for those of you out there that are sensitive and you're kind of up and down and you're not sure whether you want to watch this film, I'm hoping that I make up your mind. But just, please be warned. If you're very sensitive to subject matters like the ones that I mentioned when it comes to children and animals, then it's probably best to avoid this one altogether. So without a doubt, The House That Jack Built is one of the most ambitious yet disturbing films that you will see for quite some time. I thought this film personally was fantastic. There are some moments that are questionable in the film as to whether or not they should have been included, and I know that Matt Dillon mentioned a couple scenes in particular. One involving children was very difficult for him to film. Understandable that's none of us want to see stuff like that. And it probably didn't need to be part of this film. It's questionable. They could have left that out. But if you think about it, there's a lot worse things going on in third world countries involving children as well that people shut their eyes from. They just ignore things. So this is a film which children being mistreated isn't a source of entertainment whatsoever. But my point being is a lot worse things are happening out there that people are shutting their eyes away from, as opposed to being outraged by a movie and walking out because there was a scene depicting child cruelty. However, it's not real. It's a film. I'm not saying that I'm entertained by that kind of thing. It definitely can be disturbing. I get disturbed. I find it difficult to watch, but it goes hand in hand with the mentality of this evil serial killer person, and the fact that he just doesn't have any remorse or guilt whatsoever. It just depicts him as being this really evil serial killer. So if you can just detach yourself from what you're watching and just think outside the film itself and think about all the things happening in the world and how screwed up they really are, then it'll probably allow you to swallow this a little bit better. If not, though, like I said, don't watch the film because it can be disturbing, and I know that I have some sensitive people here, so that's why I had to think long and hard whether I actually was going to review this movie. I love my horror and disturbing type films, so I definitely had to review it, and I think I've done everything that I possibly can to prove to everybody that I'm not just some sick individual that likes depraved, disturbing movies like this. I've warned you about it. For me, it was difficult to watch, definitely some scenes, so just keep it in the back of your minds. All in all, as far as filmmaking goes, disturbing, outraging or not, Von Trier, he definitely knows how to make movies. Definitely movies that'll make you question a lot about some of the symbolism that you see in there, and also what the point he's actually trying to come across, because the ending, it's a fantastic ending. It will also be very confusing to people, and it's also the biggest allegory in the film, I think, that there is. This is just full of symbolism. The ending is just a symbolic type ending, and it's a good one. He ended it definitely on a high note, and judging by some of the cinematography, there's a deep correlation to a story which I'm going to mention in my spoiler video. It's a poem describing a certain somebody's journey in the 14th century. That's all that I will reveal at this stage. Some of you that are very cluey out there and familiar with poems, you'll probably know exactly what I'm talking about, but to be discussed in my next video. Make sure you come back, check that out. All in all, on the Bannock evil scale of 13, The House That Jack Built gets a very well-deserved 12. Definitely a flawless opening first hour to this film. Then there are some bits that are possibly a little questionable as to whether they needed to belong in the movie after that certain period of time. And then the ending, again, I think, ended on a very, very strong note. So the film is very well made, phenomenally acted. The only reason I can't give it like a perfect score is because it is questionable with some of the material in there. A little questionable, but unlike some movie reviewers, I don't want to review this as a Von Trier film. I'm reviewing this as a film on its own. I know who directed it. I know that it's going to be disturbing and it's going to cause outrage. So that's in the back of my mind to prepare me for some scenes. But all in all, my review has been an unbiased review, ignoring the fact that it's a Von Trier movie. It's a 12 out of 13. It's a must watch. But like I said, be warned. It's definitely a disturbing one. Hope to see you all in the spoilers. Don't forget to subscribe. Come back, watch my trailer reactions for new movies. I'm doing a lot of reviews and trailer reactions at the moment, as well as playing a lot of Diablo 3 and other video games. So much content to enjoy. What are you waiting for? Click that subscribe button.